different times. Maybe we change their food chain first, turning animal against animal, species against species. At the moment, it's a strange thing to see supermarkets full of food, to know that we know how to do agriculture and have perfected various farming practices over the centuries. Yet we hear something very different. People are allowed to starve in some countries. Food production is regulated and limited, unless you are a corporation, of course. Distribution tightly controlled to make sure they get what they want. A stranglehold over food and how it's produced and delivered to people. It's something we have to do every day. Eat. So if you can get to people's food, or cut off that supply, you will have their compliance, or they will die. Smallholding, organic farming, and people trying to provide healthy food for others is slowly being targeted. Allotments having their prices put up. Councils trying to stop people turning their garden into growing areas for food. Vandalism of small enterprise and ordinary people to use their time and resources to help others. See a pattern? But huge corporations are allowed to taint and contaminate your food because it's the last surefire way to get to you. What you drink, what you eat, and the air you breathe. However, on that particular area of concern, I have a theory which will be covered in my other article, Filtering. But as I look at what they are doing to people now, I can't help but wonder if animals as we know them today are just further along in that food chain shake-up, maybe having had it done to them previously. Their own food sources and resources removed, or limited, or controlled, forcing them to feast upon their own for survival, changing the harmonious structure of nature, making it adapt to cruelty to be able to exist. In my article, Changing into What Exactly?, I speculate on the possible previous genetic tinkering too, and of a strange idea that some of the domesticated animals we have today were engineered from humans in a previous time. Soylent Green sort of thing, I guess, of feeding people back to people without them knowing, but with the added twist that you think it's just an animal. Just as something might view you one day, or possibly already does. The scale of acceptability has been very much applied to humans, even so that some people in times past and today are not even viewed as fully human like you would expect, worth a third of a person or half a man. Of course, the only way to impose those things is to pick someone who looks different to the ones who decide it, people whose skin tone may be different and anatomy, thereby being easily distinguished from themselves so they can apply their archaic view, and the result that then follows. Splitting society up into categories, and then working on the thoughts, ideals, and weaknesses in people's characters to solidify those archaic views and perpetuate them. Creating a disconnect from nature, from your fellow human being, and ultimately, from reality. Think of animals in a zoo, with their allocated areas, meal times, being watched all the time, wardens and keepers to monitor them, keep them in line, condition them to a way of life we require them to become accustomed to, for our benefit, not theirs. And it is usually said of animals in captivity, they aren't the same, for obvious reasons. If you take away natural environment and habitat, and replace it with a simulated, not quite as good version, it has a lasting effect. Some animals don't adapt, and will not survive in captivity. Others, I guess, make do, because they have no choice. But losing something of themselves and their natural ways, instead developing coping mechanisms to deal with the new restricted reality they find themselves in, like we have had to as well perhaps. But because we were allowed to travel freely and look after ourselves, maybe we just didn't notice we were in an open-air, low-security prison, in our own zoo where the keepers and wardens aren't quite so visible. Well, maybe they were with the police and military, but we bought the lie of it's for your safety then, as many did this time round. And it's perhaps the owners of the zoo that aren't as obvious. Insects are now also in the firing line of a strange form of farming, as we and other animals have already had done to us. Bred for purpose and to be inserted into the main food chain. That's Not Cricket looked at that angle a bit, and seems to be making its way into the mainstream. But no life form is able to escape the glare and clutches of mental ideas of captivity and control, with the added weird horror of making us all eat each other. We say nature is cruel, but is it just that we have been brainwashed to think that, and although it is how it seems now, it could have been engineered to be that way and used to be different? But perhaps not. Maybe the reason it all goes as it does is because we do have that cruel and egotistical streak in all of us. And although people may say it is power that corrupts people, it often means then overlooking the personality that sought out power in the first instance, or made it such a goal. Surely there must already be a corruption occurring for there to be such a drive. We sometimes like to make excuses for people, saying they were led astray or that they were influenced by others, which again bypasses their active role in things, and how some really do seek to dominate and control people by whatever means necessary. And although money may seem like that's what they are after, it's what money seems to give you at a certain level. And it isn't money, is it? It's power, control, and the ability to then dominate others, industry, and enact whatever schemes your power-hungry mind can come up with. And we the people become part of someone else's motive, desire, and greed, as a pawn to it and player within it, whether we like it or not. Or is that just how it seems? And once you realise you can indeed step away and not play anymore, making me think of an ever so important line in the film Labyrinth, when she realises how to break the spell, having only to understand and say the words, "You have no power over me."